Welcome everyone to Season 3 of the BBR-D League. I'm your coach representing the Manshine State Necrozmas, and I'm very excited to talk about what our draft team looks like for this upcoming season. That's right, your boy made the cut after our stellar performance in the BBR Summer Scramble Tournament, taking home the first place prize after taking down Mount A in the Grand Finals. And so here we are in the D League alongside 17 other amazing coaches. And let me just say, it is a huge pleasure to be here, and huge shoutouts to the BBR mod team for putting all this together. With that out of the way, let's dive right into the draft rules for this season. So, we are given a total of 110 points to draft 9 to 11 Pokemon. Regarding Terra, this is a high tier Terra League, meaning that already strong Pokemon like Ogerpon or King Gambit are allowed to terrestrialize. Each team may only have one Terra Captain, so you must pick wisely. Also, each Terra Captain may Terra into any type, but you must tell your opponent your Terra type before the match begins. Now with the rules of the draft explained, we can finally get into the actual drafting process. As you can see here, our draft position is 5th out of the 18 coaches, which actually isn't that bad of a draft position. Being 5th means I'll likely not get access to the best mons in the format like Great Tusk and Iron Val, but I should still have access to very high tier mons as my first pick. However, my biggest concern here was actually that this was an 18-person draft pool. Not only is this the biggest draft pool I've ever been a part of, but it might be an issue because it means that it will be more likely that I'll get sniped as there are more people drafting a full team. With that said, I knew going into this draft that I'll have to take this first pick extremely seriously. This first pick would make or break my draft. Any high tier that I don't pick now will never make it back to me for my second pick. So, who did I pick as my number 1 pick? As the people in front of me started making picks, eventually the draft got to me, but to my surprise, both Great Tusk and Iron Val, the two best draft mons in the format, have somehow made it back to me. On one hand, you have the best roll compression Pokemon ever, having access to reliable hazard removal, the defensive stats to tank hits, and attack stats to break through anything. On the other hand, you have the most versatile offensive Pokemon with amazing dual stat typings in Fighting and Fairy, an amazing ability to facilitate Swords Dance, Calm Mind Sweeps with booster speed, and an insane repertoire of support moves in Encore, Destiny Bond, etc. So of course I knew I had to take full advantage of this opportunity. And so, as a first pick, I took the Broken Turtle again. Now before you raise your pitchforks, listen to me. I know it may seem crazy for passing up the two best mons in the format, but you gotta consider first the size of the draft pool I'm dealing with here. I know that if I don't pick Trapghost right now, it will never make it back to me. After the show carried my BBR Summer Scramble run on its back and in many other leagues and tours like Summer Seasonal, I knew the immense value this Pokemon had, and thus reason that it was a worthy Pokemon to pick round 1, even with Tusk and Val still in the draft pool. So with that, our first pick of the BBR-D League is Trapghost, nicknamed Asuka. As I mentioned before, this is a Pokemon I've used many times in the past, and I've always had great success with it, regardless of the format. So I knew if I wanted to draft a reliable Pokemon, this will be it. Perhaps the most famous aspect of Trapghost is its ability Terra Shell. Terra Shell is basically multi-skill on crack. Any attack that hits Trapghost while it has full HP is automatically not very effective, even multi-hit moves. When you pair this with Trapghost's setup moves like Rapid Spin to remove hazards and get to +1 speed, and Calm Mind, it makes Trapghost a very dangerous Pokemon that can set up on virtually anything in front of it, and deal big damage through its signature move Terra Starstorm, a no drawback base 120 normal type move. Even outside of standard sets, Trapghost gets many unique tools like Stealth Rock to act as a dedicated lead, Toxic to break down fat mons like Ting Lu, which would otherwise wall Trapghost, Meteor Beam and Rock Polish, Store Power, insane coverage. You want Trapghost to do something? It'll do it. Now, I knew the risk of taking Trapghost round 1. Not only was I saying goodbye to Tusk and Val, but by not taking a speedy 120 base speed mon this round, I knew the fast mons making it back to me would be less than ideal. My main plan was to take Trapghost round 1 and pray that Ogerpon Teal Mask would make it back to me. Unfortunately, they got quickly shot down and I'll have to come up with a plan B. By the time the draft made it back to me, as I expected, all the high tier speed mons were basically all taken except for 1. However, I also knew I needed to decide on who my Terra Captain going into this league would be. This would be arguably the most important pick of my draft, as a good Terra Captain can make or break the team. Initially, I had my eyes on Terra Iron Boulder. Iron Boulder has base 120 speed, can use boosted energy to become even faster, and sweep with Swords Dance. TURTA gives Boulder the coverage it needs to break certain mons and find easier setup opportunities. However, I found Iron Boulder to be a bit too one-dimensional. I knew that if I drafted it, it would be running the same booster or benefits every single week, which isn't a bad thing, but I wanted my TURTA captain to be able to fulfill a multitude of different roles. So, after scouring the draft board, I had finally found my next pick, TURTA Quackable, nicknamed Anji. TURTA Quackable to me was the ideal TURTA captain. It could run setup sets with Swords Dance and Aqua Step, that paired with Moxie and be able to change my type through Terrestrialization means I could fit more coverage on Quack or find more opportunities to sweep with it. Additionally, I could also use TURTA Quack defensively. With Roost, Rastin, Encore, Federant, and so many more, Quack could function as a good defensive check and removal for many Pokemon should I need to. This combination of acting as a supreme sweeper and wall, depending on the occasion, is why I deem TURTA Quackable as so valuable to warrant picking for my second pick. This additionally paired well with Trapghost as I could relieve some pressure off Trapghost to spin away hazards. Of course, ideally you don't want to spin on Trapghost or Quackable, but I have some later picks to make up for that. So with my TURTA captain out of the way, I knew that I could no longer postpone drafting speed if I want a speedy Pokemon that's not a fraud. Sorry Talonflame, sorry Psychic Star. So with that, there is only really one Pokemon I could possibly take as my third pick, and that Pokemon is Darkrai, nicknamed Zato. Many people claim Darkrai is a fraud, and in the past I even used Darkrai twice before, where it was alright I guess. The main reason I drafted Darkrai was pretty much just for the speed. Having a speed stat naturally higher than big threats like Meowscarada and Greninja is extremely valuable in my opinion. This pair of Darkrai staggering base 135 special attacks that make a difficult Pokemon to outspeed and switch into give its coverage and Sludge Bomb for fairies and psychics as Psych Shock for fighting types. And if you're feeling like gambling, you can also run Violet's Hypnosis sets, which pair well with Darkrai's ability Bad Dreams. Darkrai also has valuable disrupting ability with moves like Trick, paired with Scarf for Specs, Will-O-Wisp to get a fast burn on physical attackers, and even Knock Off and Sucker Punch. For my next pick, I knew I wanted to keep drafting speed to fill out my speed tiers. Ideally, you would have a Pokemon in the 120 speed tiers and the 110 speed tiers to force Pokemon in between to run speed boosting natures. I already had a 120 speed tier Pokemon in Darkrai, so I need a 110 speed tier mod next. Looking at all the options available, there's really only one Pokemon that I felt would fit the team, and this Pokemon was Latios, nicknamed Elfelt. I liked Latios for a team for a lot of reasons. One, it fulfilled the speed tier I needed, and two, it gave me a good defensive piece that has amazing support moves, most particularly in Healing Wish. This move in particular I knew I needed for my team because it pairs so well with my first pick, Trapghost. When I use Healing Wish on Latios into Trapghost, I get my HP loss back on Trapghost, and this means I get another use of Terra Shell. This is how I was able to clutch so many games in the past, including in Summer Scramble and Summer Seasonal, so I knew I needed Healing Wish on this team. So with the 4 Pokemon on my draft, something I knew I was lacking in was the typings. Every drafted team in my opinion should have a ground type and a ground poison. Without those, it becomes very easy for electric types to freely spam Volt Switch and Toxic Spikes to quickly cripple your team. With that said, my current build had neither of them. Fortunately, I had found the perfect Pokemon to cover both of those. So with that said, our 5th pick for the BBR-D League is Clodsire, nicknamed Ramlethal. Clodsire checked 2 things for me. It fulfilled the poison and ground type niche I need for my team, and it also gave me a premier defensive piece that I felt was lacking so far. Looking at Clodzire's stats, we see it's very naturally bulky, but where it shines is its ability and moveset. Clodsire has 2 amazing abilities in Water Absorb and Unaware. Unaware is particularly useful because it stops setup Pokemon from just clicking Swords Dance or Nasty Plot and sweeping through my team. Clodsire also had access to almost every hazard in the game, which is something my first 3 picks kinda lacked in. With Clodsire representing the backbone of my defensive core, I knew my next pick should support my defensive core further. Looking at the types I was missing, I knew I needed both a Fairy and a Steel type still, and a Pokemon that was in 9 speed tier range to complete my speed tiers. Fortunately, there's one Pokemon that fulfilled all these niches, and that is Take-A-Ton, nicknamed Abba. Take-Ten is a Pokemon I have used once in the past, and it's an excellent defensive and support mon with rocks, Thunder Wave to cripple, Fast Encore to lock Cinnamons into one move, Pickpocket to steal items, and Knock Off to get rid of items while also being able to go on the offensive with Swords Dance plus Gigaton paired with Mold Breaker. This all paired with amazing Steel and Fairy typing makes Take-Ten a menace to deal with on the defensive and offensive side, thus making it a perfect pick for my team. With our 6th pick being Tinkaton, I knew I should focus on getting another spinner to support Terapagos and Quackable. Although it might seem weird to want so many spinners, I do not want to limit Terapagos and Quackable to spin every single week. By drafting another spinner, I could bring sets like Specs Terapagos and Bandit Quack, while my 3rd spinner is to support Ratspin set. So with that said, our 7th pick I picked is Bramogast, nicknamed Happy Chaos. Bramogast gave this team 2 important things: a certain Rapid Spinner to relieve spin duty on Terapagos and Quackable, and to be a spin block if I want to keep my hazards up because of its ghost typing. Bramogast also gave me another Spiker if for some reason I don't want to bring Clodsire to a match. After drafting our 3rd Spirited team, you might think that's enough removal, right? Surely I wouldn't draft even more, right? If you thought I wouldn't draft another removal immediately after, then you would be mistaken. For my 8th pick, I decided to pick up Mandibuzz, nicknamed Testament. I drafted Mandibuzz for only one big reason, and that is defog. One of my biggest pet peeves in draft is getting spin blocked, so I always make a point to draft a good defogger. Since I saw Mandibuzz was still on the board, and it also gave me a flying type I was missing, I decided to take it. Outside of defogging, Mandibuzz also gets many useful tools like U-turn for momentum, Knock Off to remove items, Toss Stick which not many Pokemon get in this range anymore, and Foul Play to punish setup mons. With our 8th pick done, we now move on to the later stages of our draft. This is the point where I start drafting some weaker Pokemon due to lack of points, but still overall important to the team. So with that, our 9th pick is Electros. Electros is a unique Pokemon because it has the ability to Levitate paired with its electric typing. As a result, Electros has no weakness, which makes it an excellent set of Pokemon with Coil, and a defensive Pokemon with AV and utility moves like U-turn and Knock Off. Outside of these 2 sets, I don't think Electros will be used that much, to be honest. I pretty much only drafted to have a decent Momentum Bot and Blanket Check if I can't find a reliable defensive check to anything. So we arrive at the penultimate pick of our BBR-D League draft. There's only one thing missing on the team, and that is a Fire type. With the remaining points we had left and was available, there's only one clear pick, and that is Crocalor, nicknamed Ino. Crocalor also gives me another Pokemon with the ability Unaware. With Unaware, I form a nice Unaware core with Clodsire, making it very difficult for a set of Pokemon to break through my team. Crocalor also gets nice support moves in Will-O-Wisp, Yawn, and Roar to phase out Pokemon out if they try to take advantage of Crocalor's passivity with moves like Substitute. Although Crocalor is locked to using Eviolite as an item, with Eviolite it is very bulky and very capable of taking on top tier mons as long as you avoid having the Eviolite knocked off. And so moving on to our last pick here, we pretty much had everything we needed already, so I decided to use my last pick as an auxiliary pick. Since Bramogast has Dogshit Bulk, I knew if I wanted to spin block more reliably and effectively, I would need to draft a bulkier Ghost, so our 10th pick is Dusknoir, nicknamed Potemkin. Admittedly, Dusknoir has no real purpose on team outside of acting as a spin block. That is literally all it would ever be used for. Outside of spin blocking, I think it's Will-O-Wisp. I'm not very sure. I know it gets Trick Room. Well, I do know, however, that it has the ability Frisk, which is pretty useful for scaling out items, and that's all I really have to say about Dusknoir. So with that is our entire draft for the BBR-D League. Overall, I think this is a team that has many supporting options for my offensive tools in Terapagos, Quackable, and Darkrai, so I'm excited to try this team out in the regular season, and hopefully I can pilot this team to a win, just like in the BBR Summer Scramble. I hope you guys look forward to the regular season, and be sure to check out the rest of the amazing coaches, and be sure to subscribe to see more. And I'll catch you guys for week 1 next week.